Hi there. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Summers. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share the Kropz story with you. Kropz is an emerging African phosphate rock producer, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the group. The investment proposition for Kropz, I think it's three-phased. I think, first of all, phosphate, if you look at phosphate, it's essential for food production. It underpins global population expansion. And I suppose the bottom line is that people need to eat. The market is also recovering off a 10-year low in terms of pricing. Looking at sub-Saharan Africa, it's the fastest population growth on Earth. There's a low per hectare arable land fertilizer consumption. And if you look at the opportunity for us, our geographic location at the southern end of Africa and in the Republic of Congo is that we've got shipping advantages compared to some of the other major markets. We will be producing a quality rock concentrate, and we have in excess of 35 years life of mine in our project. If I can maybe focus on the two projects, our most advanced project is Elandsfontein. And then we've also got a project in the Republic of Congo, which is called Henda. To date, we've spent in the region of $207 million on these assets. At Elandsfontein, the value is underpinned by tangible assets. We've invested in excess of $160 million in a high-quality processing plant and mine infrastructure, which encompass a road, a power substation. We've excavated quite a big portion of our pit, and we've also established certain stockpiles of overburden, etc. The benefit of Elandsfontein is that we will be commissioning the mine towards the end of this year in Q4, which will give us steady state production in 2022. So it's a near-term cash generative property that. Looking at Henda, to date, $47 million has been invested into this project in drilling, test work, and various studies. And the future growth for the Kropz group is in a scalable Henda study or in a Henda project. Looking at our projects just in a bit more detail, as I said, Elandsfontein is located in South Africa. It's probably 100 kilometers north of Cape Town. It is 74% owned by Kropz PLC. It is the second largest phosphate deposit in South Africa. It is a low cadmium resource, which is a buzzword in Europe nowadays, given the cadmium requirements. We've got a processing facility that can produce in excess of 1 million tons per annum of 31% phosphate rock. And the rock is being tested, and it is upgradable to both phosphoric acid and to MAP and DAP. We've got excellent logistics. We are 50 kilometers from the nearest port at Saldanha. And we are fully permitted, and as I said previously, our commissioning is scheduled for Q4 2021. Looking at Henda, Henda is 40-odd kilometers north of the town of Point Noir in the Republic of Congo. It's currently 100% owned by us, but the Republic of Congo government has an option to acquire a 10% free carry in that project. It is believed to be one of the world's biggest undeveloped phosphate reserves. Similarly, studies were performed on the phosphate rock, and it was suitable for the production of phosphoric acid and for MAP and DAP. Once again, excellent logistics. It's close to port. It's 37 kilometers from the port, so it's very nearby. And currently, we are in the process of updating a 2015 feasibility study in a more phased approach. In the 2015 study was for 4 million tons per annum, which was way too big for the current infrastructure in the port in Point Noir. So we're looking at a phased approach where we'll initially do 1 million tons per annum and then extend that or increase that to 2 million tons per annum once we settle. Just looking at the opportunity for Kropz, the major importers in the world is America, Brazil, India. The major exporters, mainly for concern for us more, is Morocco and in Saudi Arabia, and then the major producers are China and Russia. Where we sit, we have very good cost advantages due to our geographical location. We also have the benefit of the possibility of having synergies from the blending of our Elandsfontein phosphate rock with the Henda phosphate rock when that project comes on stream eventually. And the two projects combined will potentially contribute 4 to 5% of the international rock traded market. Just as an example, then, in terms of the cost savings, in terms of the logistics between South Africa and Brazil, there's potentially a 25% saving compared to North Africa, Brazil. And similarly for India, there's an even bigger cost saving of about 40% in logistics costs. Just in terms of where phosphate sits in the fertilizer space, phosphate rock is at the beginning of that process. You add sulfuric acid to that gives you phosphoric acid. Add ammonia to that, you get MAP and DAP, and then add potassium to that, and you get your more traditional NPK fertilizers. Looking at the demand drivers for phosphate rock, the main drivers is fertilizer production. As we all know, fertilizers are critical to crop yields and sustaining global food supplies. Phosphate rock prices hit a low in April 2020, probably as a result of COVID as well. But CRU is currently forecasting a 25% price increase from 2020 to 2025 for Elandsfontein 31% specific phosphoric rock. And that can be seen in this price graph. They're quite bullish until 2025, where after the prices flatten out. Looking at the structure of the group, I'm just running through this quickly. Elandsfontein is 74% owned by Elandsfontein, by Kropz Elandsfontein. We've got a local partner in South Africa called the African Rainbow Capital Fund. It is a Black economic empowerment entity in South Africa, quite well established, well recognized, and a very reputable partner to have on board. And we're very thankful to their continued support for the group. In Hinda, we've got, as I said earlier, we've got 90%. The Republic of Congo still has an option to acquire a 10% free carried interest, but at this stage, we still own 100% of that project. Kropz PLC, which is listed on the AIM market of the London Stock Exchange, owns 100% in both of the top entities. And then through our listing and through ARC funds participation in fundraisers subsequent to the IPO, we have a very substantial shareholder in African Rainbow Capital, and they currently control or own 82.7% of the listed entity. Looking at our board, we've got a very strong board with lots of experience in the mining industry. Our chairman, Lord Robin Rennick, has been in the mining industry for many years. I've had in excess of 25 years mining experience. And Mike Bagel, a non-exec director, has had 40 years in the phosphate-specific industry. Linda Beale is a seasoned financial executive, as well as Michiel Reinicke, who's the representative for the ARC fund on our board. And then Mike Nunn, who's also the other non-exec director, is a reputable mining entrepreneur who's been involved in various projects, and he was one of the original founders of Kropz. As I indicated previously, our shareholder base is set out there, with African Rainbow Capital being the biggest shareholder. Our share price is currently way down from our initial IPO price of 40 pence per share, but we expect a sizable re-rating once we reach production at the end of this year. If I can maybe just briefly touch on ESG, I think ESG is the main buzzword nowadays. Everybody is focusing on ESG. I'll just maybe touch a couple of points. Mining is in the spotlight. I think everybody's looking at mining, and we need to be responsible, and we need to make ESG part of our business strategy. Investors expect that from us. I think it's investor and shareholder activism is very front of mind nowadays, and it's part of the part of the investors' expectations. Climate, social, and governance risks are business risks, and we need to incorporate those into our strategies. ESG is part of the investment decision. Investors look at ESG scorecards to decide if they want to invest in you. You have to value your employees and contractors. If you keep them happy, happy employees, happy contractors, happy business. That's my view. It's become central to business strategy and viability as well. And then it is just the right thing to do. I think morally we have to do it. If you want to maintain your reputation in the mining industry, you have to comply with it, and you have to follow suit. And then ESG also drives consumer preference at the end of the day. We're committed to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. Our mine at Elandsfontein has been designed and built on the basis of mine closure. So everything we do is driven by the concept of, we've got to close the mine at some point in time. So ongoing rehabilitation is a main driver for us. We continually use consultants, experts in the field of rehabilitation to rehabilitate as we go along. And then, all the normal goals, I suppose. I've listed 8 there, which are specific to us. We offer proper salaries to contractors, employees. We have proper health and safety on site. We have health and safety available, officers available, and facilities available to contractors and employees on site. We're involved in bursary schemes of local communities. We focus on employment of women in the workforce. We have asked our contractors to focus on employing females, and specifically on our mining side, females have been trained to actually be mining fleet operators, and we're encouraging that with our contractors. Looking at Elandsfontein, we've invested 160 million to date. I've already pointed out close to port, fully permitted, commissioning expected at the end of this year. DRA, the EPCM contract, was appointed in 2020, and they're almost done with construction of the mine. And our first ore is scheduled for the end of this year. I'm not going to go through this in much detail. It's just a chronology of where we were from 2013. We had our prospecting right awarded, and then all the way up to 2021 when we commissioned. It's a lengthy process with most of these projects. It ends up being a very long process. Looking at the resources in mining at Elandsfontein, it's a free digging Sangay deposit. That is the actual picture of our open pit excavation. It's a 101 million ton drill compliant resource, and it's a 64 million ton probable reserve. And the mining method was proven to work in 2016 and 2017. And the rollover mining method allows you to do ongoing rehabilitation. Looking at the processing, the plant's designed to operate to 31% P2O5, capacity of more than 1 million tons per annum. It's a robust circuit. It's based on the Florida, tried and tested Florida Trago process. The original plant was designed to do 2 phases of reverse flotation. We've now updated that to make it a direct reverse flotation configuration. So we've added fine screening around the mill circuit. We're doing attritioning, conditioning. We've got a new coarse flotation stage and additional reagent storage and tailings thickness. So that is just a depiction of our footprint in 2017. If you look at all the 3D model of the modifications, those are all the additions in the bright colored areas. And that's what the footprint looks currently. It's quite an impressive plant, and we're very proud of it. Elandsfontein's got a 9-year life. It's relatively short, but we've got the potential to extend. So that gives you production of about 8.7 million tons over the life of mine. And life of mine selling prices of $136 per ton and cash costs of 86, which is on the high side, and we're working to get that more down further. Looking at Hinder, our project, we've spent $47 million on that. I think I've addressed all those points. As I said earlier, the DFS completed in 2015 was for 4 million ton per annum project. That was a very capex intensive project in excess of $600 million of capital required. We've taken a step back and decided to update that study to do a more phased approach for 1 million tons per annum, and then increasing that to a more scalable 2 million tons per annum. We've got a mining investment agreement signed with the Republic of Congo government, and we've got a 25-year renewable mining license. And once again, we had a mining resource was declared in 2013, and test work's been done all along the process. And as I said, we're hoping to conclude our updated DFS in 2021, and then raise funding and hopefully commission in 2024. Hinder's resources and mining, it's a very large deposit, it's shallow. So open cast mining is quite easy. And there's a total reserve of 405 million tons of P2O5 at 11%. And we have in excess of a 25-year life of mine at that project. Looking at the optimized production plan, we've, as I've indicated, the 1 million and the 2 million. We'll be switching from owner-operated model to contractor-operated model, which was in the previous feasibility study. So we will focus more on contractors because that's what we're doing at Elandsfontein. There are various phases, various components of the 2015 feasibility study we're changing. And then, hopefully that would allow us a lower cost CapEx option with possible expansion later once the process has been tried and tested. Just in terms of infrastructure, on the left-hand side is the actually new quay at the port in Pointe-Noire, actually a very impressive structure. And on the right is the RN1 highway, which we have to travel 27 kilometers on to get to the point of Pointe-Noire from our mine. So infrastructure is relatively good. and looking forward to get stuck into that project and develop that project in due course. Thank you for the opportunity to share a very quick helicopter overview of Kropz with you, and look forward to interacting with you during the course of our future. Thank you.